The residents of Oak Ridge Heights lived under an iron grip, not of law nor reason, but of Martha Whitmore, the HOA president who ruled with the fervor of a dictator and the precision of an executioner. For nearly a decade, Martha had cultivated an empire of compliance, where every driveway was spotless, every lawn precisely trimmed, and every mailbox an identical shade of community-approved taupe. Her rules weren't suggestions. They were absolute decrees, and any who defied them faced fines, warnings, and, if they persisted, social exile. Most residents obeyed, some begrudgingly, others out of habit. And then there was Lena Carter. Lena had moved in just a few months prior, a breath of fresh air in a place that smelled of rigid conformity. A restoration artist by profession, she had spent years working on grand historical murals, traveling the country, and living life on her own terms. Now, for the first time, she was settling down. Her house, a charming colonial with a wraparound porch, was everything she had ever wanted. But Oak Ridge Heights? That was another matter entirely. The battle had begun the moment Lena moved in. First, there was the mailbox violation, non-compliant color. Martha had informed her dryly at their first meeting, gesturing toward Lena's cheerful blue mailbox with the disdain of a queen addressing a peasant. Lena had chuckled. Seriously? Martha had simply handed her a fine notice. Then came the unapproved decor complaint about Lena's front porch swing. Then a $200 fine for overgrown vegetation, which in reality was nothing more than a few wildflowers in her front yard. Every week, a new infraction. Every month, a new battle. Yet despite all this, Lena had an unexpected ally. Karen Benson, Lena's old college friend next-door neighbor, had lived in Oak Ridge Heights for over 6 years. Unlike Lena, Karen had always played by the rules, taking pride in the neighborhood's pristine order. She wasn't just an HOA supporter. She was one of Martha's most trusted informants. But Karen was torn, because while she respected the HOA's vision, she also loved Lena like a sister. And when Lena announced she was getting married, Karen had hoped, just for once, that Martha might bend. She was wrong. The wedding war begins. The moment Lena submitted her request to host a backyard wedding, Martha saw it as an act of war. At the next HOA meeting, held in Martha's perfectly curated living room, she addressed the board with thinly veiled disgust. She wants a wedding reception in her backyard, Martha announced, her voice dripping with contempt, with live music, outdoor decorations, and get this, a floral arch. The board members, elderly, stone-faced, and ever-loyal, shook their heads in disapproval. "This isn't a venue," Henry Dawson, the HOA treasurer, sniffed. "It's a community." Martha nodded, then turned to Karen. "And you, Karen? Surely you agree this is excessive." Karen hesitated. She didn't like defying Martha, but Lena's wedding was one day. Surely that wasn't unreasonable. I think. Martha raised a hand. Enough. Her word was final. The next day, Lena received an official HOA rejection letter. Your request to host a wedding on your property has been denied. This event violates HOA guidelines concerning noise restrictions, decor regulations, unauthorized gatherings exceeding 10 people. And at the bottom, stamped in bold red ink, attempting to host this event will result in fines, legal action, and potential expulsion from Oak Ridge Heights. Lena laughed when she read it. Then she crumpled the letter and turned to Karen. "Fine," she said, eyes glinted with something dangerously close to mischief. "She wants to play games? Let's play." Lena Carter had fought many battles in life. Deadlines, stubborn paint stains, an overzealous landlord or two. But an HOA war? This was new territory. Martha Whitmore had drawn a line in the sand, stamping Lena's wedding plans with a firm denied. But if Martha thought that was the end of it, she was gravely mistaken. Standing in Lena's kitchen, Karen watched her best friend pace, muttering under her breath. "She wants to play dirty?" Lena finally said, "Fine, let's get messy." Karen sighed. "Lena, I know Martha's awful, but this is her kingdom. Maybe—" No, Lena turned, eyes flashing. "This isn't about a wedding anymore. It's about control. And Martha doesn't get to control me." Karen hesitated. She had spent years following HOA rules, believing in community order. But as she looked at her best friend, furious and defiant, she realized something. Martha had gone too far. Karen exhaled. Okay, what's the plan? Lena's lips curled into a grin. A dose of chaos. 3 nights before what should have been Lena's wedding, Oak Ridge Heights residents woke up to something unexpected. A series of for sale signs had appeared in front of multiple homes, each one painted in bright neon colors. Lawn flamingos, hundreds of them, had migrated onto Martha's meticulously trimmed grass. A banner reading, HOA Queen Martha approves all marriages, was strung between 2 lampposts. But the true masterpiece? A massive inflatable bouncy castle, right in front of Martha's pristine White House, with a sign that read, Wedding Reception Venue, RSVP Now. By sunrise, the neighborhood was buzzing. Residents peered out their windows, whispering in hushed tones. And Martha? She stormed outside, robe-clad, hair in disarray, eyes burning with fury. What in God's name? She whirled to her enforcers, Henry Dawson and the ever-loyal Geraldine Fitz, the HOA's self-appointed rule enforcer. Shut this down. Henry hurriedly yanked at the bouncy castle's air valve, while Geraldine began ripping up the for sale signs. Martha's face burned redder with every second. She turned in slow horror, her gaze landing on Lena and Karen, standing on Lena's porch. Lena raised a champagne glass and a mock toast. Karen, still adjusting to this newfound rebellion, simply muttered, "Oh, boy." Martha marched toward them, eyes narrowed into slits. "You did this," she seethed. Lena sipped her drink. "Me?" "Martha, I am shocked at the accusations." Martha jabbed a manicured finger toward the bouncy castle. "Take it down." "Can't," Lena said breezily. "It's private property. And as you like to remind us, HOA has no jurisdiction over temporary decorations." Karen bit her lip to stop a laugh. That was Martha's own rule. Martha clenched her fists. "This is harassment." Lena tilted her head. "Oh, like the 52 fines you give me in 3 months? That kind of harassment." Martha took a slow, steady breath. "If you don't remove this nonsense, I will fine you into oblivion." Lena's smirk deepened. "You'll have to find a rule I actually broke first." Martha hesitated. She knew it, too. The decorations, the bouncy house, the signs. It was all annoying, but none of it actually broke HOA regulations. Lena had played her game, and played it well, but Martha wasn't done. She leaned in, voice low and dangerous. "You think this is funny?" Lena matched her stare. "Hilarious." Martha smiled, not her usual cold smirk, but a slow, deliberate grin that sent a ripple of unease through Karen's spine. "Enjoy your little joke," Martha said, "because this war isn't over." Then she turned and walked away. Lena exhaled, the tension in her shoulders loosening. Well, that went better than expected. Karen, however, was still watching Martha retreat. "She's not done," she murmured. Lena scoffed. "What's she going to do? Fine me for existing?" Karen wasn't sure, but she knew one thing for certain. Martha Whitmore didn't lose. And if Lena had won this round, that only meant one thing. Martha was planning something worse. Martha Whitmore had spent years building her reign over Oak Ridge Heights. She had dictated the color of shutters, controlled the height of grass, and enforced every rule with ruthless precision. She had driven out families who refused to conform and silenced complaints with endless bureaucratic red tape. And now, she had been humiliated by Lena Carter, by an outsider, by a prank. The bouncy castle, neon for sale signs, and plastic flamingos had turned the neighborhood into a spectacle. Residents whispered. Some laughed behind her back. Even the board members, Henry Dawson and Geraldine Fitz, had begun to look at her with something too close to doubt. Martha would not allow it. She poured herself a cup of tea, took a slow sip, and then picked up her phone. It was time to remind Oak Ridge Heights, who ruled here. A sudden and unwelcome crackdown. By morning, Martha's retaliation began. Lena woke up to find a red HOA violation notice taped to her front door. Urgent notice. Your property has been found in severe violation of multiple HOA regulations, including but not limited to unauthorized lawn decor, public disturbances, disrupting neighborhood aesthetics. At the bottom, in bold capital letters, total fines due $3,500. Lena let out a low whistle. She really went for it. Karen, standing beside her, winced. That's excessive and illegal. Lena folded the notice and tucked it into her back pocket. She can't fine me for things that aren't violations. Karen frowned. But she can make your life miserable. She was right. Lena stepped outside and noticed a group of HOA enforcers patrolling the street. They were targeting homes at random, measuring fence heights, inspecting porches, even checking car tires for dust. Fines were being issued left and right. And the message was clear. This is what happens when you cross Martha Whitmore. Karen watched in growing horror. She's dragging the whole neighborhood into this. Lena exhaled sharply. She's not just coming for me. She's trying to turn them against me. And for some residents, it was working. By afternoon, a small group had gathered on Martha's porch. She's ruining our peaceful community, an older woman muttered. This neighborhood isn't a joke, Henry Dawson added. It's about order. Martha smiled. The cracks in her control had been sealed, or so she thought, because while some neighbors grumbled, others, they weren't happy. The rebellion grows. By evening, Karen and Lena sat on the porch, watching the neighborhood simmer with tension. Then, a car pulled up. It was David and Serena Patel, a quiet couple who had lived under Martha's rule for years. David stepped out, holding a stack of HOA fine notices. She's lost it. Serena nodded. We got fined for leaving our trash out 5 minutes too long. Karen looked around. Other neighbors had started approaching, too. A young father with his arms crossed. A retired teacher, shaking her head. A college student whose bike had mysteriously vanished from his porch. Confiscated for community aesthetics. Martha hadn't just declared war on Lena. She had turned the whole neighborhood into a battlefield. And now, people were ready to fight back. Lena folded her arms, smirking. Looks like we're not the only ones who are done with her. Karen, still grappling with this new reality, whispered, What now? Lena stood, cracking her knuckles. We end this.